batch 560. This time we're doing more things out of the freezer to clean up more of the freezer. We didn't have to defrost the freeze dryer because those last batches were such low water that there's very little water in it, and we're going to do things that are also relatively low water. So tray 1, and these trays this time have not been in the freezer because they just came out after the bit of honey ones. We're doing a couple of packs of cheese. So this is a 2-pound bag of cheese. I'm going to put it on a tray all by itself, and even if it's a little bit, no, I'll just have to rearrange the trays because tray 1 has to be short because I didn't readjust the freeze dryer rack. So tray, the one that goes on top is going to have to be short, so it may not end up being tray 1. Because I want this whole 2 pounds on there. And we'll check to see how close to 2 pounds it is. Okay, so 1655 for the gross weight. And then of course I'll subtract out the tray weight and paper weight, and that will give us the net weight. We'll kind of take that off of there now that we've got that and kind of push them flatter. And some of the cheese is kind of clumpy right now because it's been in the freezer and kind of frozen. I'm not going to worry about that terribly. Just get it low enough so that it doesn't hit the rack above it. As it freeze dries and the moisture comes out, these clumps will kind of fall apart and everything will be fine in it. And as usual, clean the table well so that I don't have to worry about when I spill things. I can just put it back on the tray. So I'm going to tuck a thermometer in there, try to get it about a little less than halfway down in the cheese. Okay, so tray 1 ready to go in. And as usual, thermometers are not required. Weighing them's not required. I just really like to know. And I'm weighing, writing down the tare weight right now. So what this tray and paper weighs, and it's bouncing, so I'm going to use the standard number that I use for the tray and paper, which is for tray 2 is 747. The second cheese, again shredded cheese, just a mix of cheese. And this is a good way to use sale things. If you get a really good price on something, you can get extra and freeze dry it. And it's 1678. And again, I'll take it off of there and kind of squish it down a little bit. And this is a considerably coarser grind of or shreds of cheese than the one other cheese that we did earlier. And that seems like it doesn't take up as much space, so it's easier to get the cheese on the trays. I like that. And for using the cheese later, you don't really have to rehydrate it per se. You can put it on the top of things that are going to be, that are wet and you're going to bake or whatever, and then if you cover it, the steam will get this wet enough and then it's going to melt right in. Or if you're mixing it in something, it takes care of it all just fine. And it's such a small amount of moisture in it, you generally don't have to really adjust the recipe that much. If it's a big recipe, you might need a little bit, you know, a couple ounces or something, but you can watch the weight loss and adjust it. Tray 3 and 4 are some cooked pork loin little steaks. So I'm going to put this underneath so we know what it is. And mainly I'm putting underneath because it's felt pen, so I don't want it touching the food. It's one of the reasons I write in pencil, because I don't mind eating graphite. And I figure if it's on there, it could transfer. Got this pack of that. So I just need to get this as much as possible on 2 trays. And one of the trays I need to make sure is not sticking up, because I need to put it in rack position 1 in the freeze dryer. Because again, I didn't lower that rack yet. So I need to make sure I have at least one of these 2 trays with the pieces thin enough so that it's going to fit in that space. So now it's little meat Tetris. There's a lot more here than I thought there was going to be. We'll give that a whirl. Worst it'll do is not fit, and we have to saw it off. And finally, tray 4. Yeah, these seem a little bit thicker, which is okay. That one is definitely a little thicker. One piece is kind of sitting on top of the other, which isn't a problem as long as I don't try to put it on the top shelf. Grab something else out of the freezer real quick. Don't go away. So I found one little Loin bag in there that says baked tiny ham pieces. So I'm going to just tuck that on that corner and call that good enough for me. I don't really need to worry about a barrier between there, and it's a very dry item also, except for the ice. So now we have another full tray, 1581. And I can use some of this crumble area, kind of get the thermometer up off the tray and then covered with some pieces. So it won't be ideal, but it will give me some information of how this area is doing. And it's not critical. You don't need thermometers in your trays. I just like it, especially when it's time to take them out and the machine is stopped. This tells me, do I need to rewarm it, or is it still warm enough that I don't have to worry about condensation? That's, I think, the main reason for the thermometers. The secondary is I can glance at it when I'm walking by and it gives me a heads up that, hey, these are up to 40 degrees. Even though the machine hasn't told me yet that it's going to jump to final dry, I know it's getting close because these are rising up in temperature. I'm not going to bother drilling into one of these for a thermometer, so there'll just be one of the trays that does not have a thermometer, and we'll just deal with it. The other ones will still tell me whether or not it's warm enough to take out without any condensation issues. Got the trays over here at the freeze dryer. I don't think either of these cheese ones are going to fit at position 1. I think they're too tall. I'm hoping this one with the little pork steaks will fit in that space. If none of them will fit, then I'll just have to put the rack where it belongs before I can continue, which I should have done before I got started, but I forgot. So we'll get these in there and see if it works. Before we can start, I need to restart this. So I'm going to, because we didn't stop it for defrosting because there's so little in there. So now I'll stop it with no defrost, and then I'll restart it with customize, start custom, and continue. So it says that that rack thermometer is already negative 42. And I know from the thermometer underneath that it's already below 40. The freeze dryer is at least 40 below already, because we never stopped it after the last batches. It's been on for, I don't know, 3 or 4 days straight without stopping. Well, without stopping except for to hit no defrost and then restart it immediately. So it's been cold. Don't really have to worry about defrosting when there's so little moisture in a batch. After this batch, I'll probably have to defrost unless we're doing something ridiculously low water again. So don't know. We'll see how much these lose. The other ones total, the last few batches have only been a few ounces. I didn't adjust the top shelf back down on the rack, so I don't know for sure that any of these will fit. I may have to adjust that before I can get it in there. So we'll find out. Yeah. So that's the spot I'm going to try first with whatever shelf will fit, or whatever item will fit. I don't think, no, the cheese is not going to fit in there. So my best chance is actually this pork steak one, because all it has to do is fit in this opening, then it gets wider all the way down. Okay, I'm going to put that one in that space. I won't be able to rotate them unless I change that shelf afterwards, but that's okay. I can do that. I'll get all of these loaded in there. And then after this batch is done and I defrost, then I can get that shelf back in place, unless we're doing something else that we want video of. So the whole reason that this is up here is so I can get the camera a better shot in there and see down there better. We'll get that closed again, and we do not have a seal ring around there right now. It goes here, there's a space here and here. I'm going to use the little palette knife to twist and kind of squish that seal out till it touches the door. Now it looks like we've got a ring all the way around there. Otherwise, with as cold as it is, you get ice built up around there, and then that has to melt when it first starts the vacuum before you get a good seal. It'll still work, but you're going to be pulling some air around there first, and there's just no need for hot air to be going through there. If it's 70 out here and negative 40 in there, you've got a 110 degree difference of temperature. So you're pulling in 110 degree warmer air in there. You don't need that. The chamber is already completely cold. Now we're going to wait until the food gets cold enough. So it's got 6 more hours to go on the freeze cycle the way I've got it set, but we don't need that much. Because it's so cold, I can bypass some of that now. So I'll go ahead and bypass 2 hours of it and go down to 4 hours, and then I can check it again to see if that's more than it needed. That's one of the good things about the thermometers in the food, is I'll be able to tell the actual food temperature, not just the tray temperature or the rack temperature. The temperature probe on the older machine like this, there's only one temperature probe. It's underneath the second tray up and near the back. So all it'll tell you is what that spot's temperature is. It doesn't tell you what the food is. I want to know that the food's cold. So anyway, I'll lower the amount of time by 2 hours. I'm going to use the down arrow and bypass 2 hours of that to give just about a total of 4 hours of freeze time now. But again, the machine was already frozen, so it's not a real big concern. I can come back and check it in a while. It's been going for quite a while because I've been doing other things, so I just kept adding time. So now I'm going to get it out and check it. This batch has been rewarming for quite a while because I just kept adding more time because I was busy doing other things. So now let's get it out and check it, find out what the weight is right now, make sure that it's not losing weight. Really should have done this a long time ago. It's probably been done for quite a while, so we won't really know how long it takes because it's probably been done. So I'll use the down arrow to bypass the rest of the time, and I'll open the drain valve. And starting with tray one of the cheeses. Okay, so tray 1 is 1319. So that's down about 350 grams. And I'm going to switch it. Okay, yeah, that's great. Those clumps, I knew those clumps would fall apart after it starts to dry. Yeah. There's not a huge amount of water in cheese, but there's enough to make a difference and to stick them together, and then when they dry, then they fall back apart. Okay, so tray 2, 1323. I'm going to switch the positions of those two and put 2 down at that spot. And tray 1 up here. Okay, and then tray 3. When I open it to defrost it later, I'll put that shelf back where it belongs. So tray 3. So 999. It's about 500 grams down. And tray 4 is 1,056. Now I can't put this one up on the top shelf because I'd have to move that tray first. That's really not something I want to do right now. These are too tall to fit in that spot. So I'm going to have to leave them the way they were. I'm not real happy about that, but I don't have a lot of option with that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can't fit this in there, but I could try it. Oh, okay. It looks like it's going to make it. Okay, made it. So I can switch those two, so never mind about that. Now we'll give it a couple more hours just to give me peace of mind that it stopped losing weight. It seems extremely unlikely that it's not done with all those extra hours of final time. So it would have had 11 hours of final dry time, and then I think I've given it about 6 more hours today. So 17 hours of final dry time. That's a long time, especially for low moisture things like these. These are all relatively low moisture. So the total so far is about maybe 1,600 grams of water, which is less than 4 pounds of water. So it's still quite a light load. Okay, so I'll restart it and add a little bit more time. So first, get the drain valve closed. Next, I'm going to put more dry time. Drain valve is closed. Continue. And I'm not worried about that being any cooler. All right, instant ring around there, everything's sealed. We'll give it a little bit more time. The thermometers inside say about 90 degrees. Yeah, so about 90 degrees on each of those. We'll be back in a couple hours and double check it. Don't go away, we'll be right back. It's only been about an hour and 40 minutes, but because I'd given it so many extra hours earlier while I was waiting, I'm going to go ahead and take it out and check it now to see if it's lost anything. If it's lost even a gram or 2 per tray, we'll probably give it some more time. But if it's 0, then I can be pretty confident that it was done. We won't really know how long this one took if it's done, because who knows how many hours ago I should have checked it. So I'll use the down arrow to bypass the rest of it. And then open the drain valve. And see what we've got. So where did I put tray 1? Tray 1. Nice and toasty. Yeah, very, very nice and warm. But the cheese does have a lot of mass. I mean, it's 2 pounds. So if it lost anything, we'll stir it up and then put it back. Actually, it's showing 1 higher than before, and before was bouncing between the two. So I'm going to reset it while the scale's in this spot and then weigh it without moving the scale. Okay, same as last time and bouncing up to the other number like it was before. So no change. Tray 2, 1323, and no change. So the cheeses are done. So now let's check these little pork loin pieces. Tray 3, 998. Okay, that's 1 gram, so it's still probably really good. Right. Wow, that's toasty hot. 1055. So it's also 1 gram. Looks like maybe this one. And I'm going to try to stuff the thermometer into the middle of it and see if it goes down at all. Okay, so that had an hour and 45 minutes or an hour and 20 minutes to warm up. That thermometer is dropping. So I would say put it back in because the thickest pieces may still have a little bit of moisture. I mean, it's not dropping a lot, but it has dropped 10 degrees by putting it in there. And then let's assume that I didn't even hit the coldest spot, so there could be worse spots. So, cheese can come out and be bagged. These will get put back in just to be sure. You know, they're only a gram, but who knows what's lurking in the middle of there still. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that one here, put this one here, and I was planning on waiting until later to move these, but I'm going to go ahead and move this rack down because this heater is way up here, and I'm going to put it back down in place so it helps warm the top of that one too. All right, so get this back into place. So next time I take this out to clean it, I could tighten this up, unless we're going to use it again for more low moisture items. So I'm going to see if I can get this in there, see if I can get a little bit better shot of that. So to accommodate this and be able to move this up to photograph in between there, I drilled the rivets out a few years ago. And then just recently put one of these little bolts in instead of a rivet. Okay, so just finger tight, but that's fine to hold it for now. But now the shelf is at the proper spacing to help warm the top of that tray up. All right, now we'll get this front disc back in place. And I am going to let this run and chill for a little while before I restart the drying process. Because I had it open for so long doing that, I'm afraid that the barrel might not be as cold as it's supposed to be right now. So I'll let it cool maybe an hour and then restart it and give it 2 hours, 3 hours, and then double check it. And because I'm not restarting it right away, I'm going to use the little palette knife in that groove and make sure that the seal ring is all the way around there, so they're not leaking air across there and ending up with an ice ring, or just pulling in warm air, because it's still out here 70 versus in there I want it negative 40, so 110 degrees difference. And it's really cold in there in comparison to out here. For the cheese, it'd be done in less than 27 hours. Don't know what it was because it's dry, and so it's been dry for a while. We'll get moved over to the bagging area and get them weighed, and then they can be bagged. For the other things, it'll be longer. We've got 19.25 kilowatt hours for the cheese, and then I'll just leave that running for the other part. We'll get these 2 trays of cheese weighed without the thermometer, 1311, and then 1315. So this tray lost 363 and this tray lost 334. So different cheeses, different water loads. Okay, so they were both 2 pounds before, and so if you need to know how much water to add, you can simply do that math and get it back to what it was. We have little tags that are going to go on each bag. So it has batch number, the fact that it's shredded cheese, and the date that it went into the freeze dryer. And plenty of room to add what kind of cheese, if you want to track that, and how much water it needs to add. But usually with cheese, you could either just eat it this way, because it's really good, or mix it in with things. And just know that it's going to dry out other dishes a little bit, but it's less than, it's a little more than half the water to cheese. So if you have 2 ounces of cheese, you could add a little less than 1 ounce of water, and it's going to be pretty close. Okay, so then we'll get some bags. That's really good. And then are you going to do weight or scoop? So, and then another obvious way that you can do it is just by volume, because this didn't shrink a lot. So if you need a cup of shredded cheese, for instance, you can use this still, and it shrank a little, but basically that's, oh,
Yeah.
this one holds more than that. I was thinking the top mark.
Yeah.
So there is about a cup of cheese, and these would fit really easily in the pint bags, and you might want 12 ounces or 16 ounces, but you could bag a variety of sizes depending on your needs. It's really, really simple. I'm going to go ahead and add on the bag itself the batch number, and then on the tag I could add, this is a cheddar jack blend, and I'm going to say that it's 1 cup. And if I knew ahead of time how I was going to bag that, all of that could be printed on there. But now I've got that information too, that it's cheddar jack and that it's a 1 cup amount in there. So really handy to do. And when we do a lot of bags that are the same thing, I do like to print tags. It's like when we did some of the apples where we're doing batch after batch for basically the whole month because it's apple season. It's really nice to have tags so you don't have to write them with a felt pen. Okay. And obviously with this pint bag and the cheese you could get more in there. So we'll have some of them with more, some of them with smaller amounts. And then push out the extra air after the oxygen absorber's in there and seal it up. So that's all there is to these, except for dried cheese is really quite delicious. Been another couple hours. So now we're going to take them out, weigh them, make sure that they did stop losing weight, and get them bagged. I'll use the down arrow to get past the last of it. Get the drain valve open. Whoosh. Alrighto. So we just have tray 3 and 4 left. Oh, tray 3. And no change, which means it was indeed done a couple hours ago. But there's no way to tell without simply giving it a little more time to find out. And tray 4, this is the one that I was more concerned about, those thick, heavy pieces. And apparently rightfully so, because that's down 10. I know what it is. The thermometer's not in there. Because I took it out when I was poking that other piece and I forgot to put it back, and the thermometers weigh about 10. And that's why it's important to keep everything the same. By taking that thermometer out, I thought, my gosh, it lost 10 grams or 9 grams. Anyway, it didn't. So I'm going to stop the machine with no defrost and get that opened back up. And I'll get the defrost baffle in there. I'll get the thermometer out from there. And then we'll get the defrost fan into place. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on low, and I'll wait until after we finish bagging, or until after finish video for bagging, because I'm not going to start another batch tonight. Even though we could get it done in time, I don't care to do that. So we'll wait until tomorrow. Okay, so we'll get these moved over to the bagging area. I'll come right back for the time and the power usage. So it says about 32.5 hours, and it had virtually no change in the last 2.5 hours. So I'm going to use 30 hours for when that finished with the little pork loin steaks. Okay, so now the total energy use after the pork is 21.12 kilowatt hours, and we'll reset it for the next batch. We can get the final weights on these, and that's funny that I took the thermometer out and forgot. That freaked me out how much it lost. 1046. Okay. So now, one of the worst things about weighing them as you go is when you go to check them for drier things, you can't snack on them because it will disturb the weight. So now you can snack on them. It's like the driest ham ever. It's like the it's like crispy bacon. This should be good on a salad or on your burger or snacking. All right, so and these are going to be bagged crazy, just plain willy-nilly, because some people just don't care. Oh, the humanity. Those will just go into bags and get oxygen absorbers sealed up, and that's it for this batch. Oh, well, if you're going to use a scoop, we'll see that. And then I'm going to shut it off.
It'd be funnier if I missed the bag.
Yeah, I'm going to move some of these there. And these are little pork loin steaks with
just gravy stuff.
Yeehaw!
I think I'm going to call that it for that one. And we'll move on from there. I have to do that. It's my duty. Duty.